Rick Harrison's life is in free fall. Adam is gone, Chumlee is facing life behind bars, and the Pawn Stars empire, once a shining beacon of success, is now collapsing under the weight of betrayal, lawsuits, and financial ruin. Everything Rick built, everything his father left behind, is slipping through his fingers. Tune in, because the next disaster is already on its way, and this time, Rick might not survive the fall. The empire cracks. The old man, Richard Harrison, was the backbone of it all, running the shop with an iron fist and a sharp eye for deals. When he passed in 2018, the shop lost more than its founder. It lost its heart. Rick kept things rolling, but trouble was waiting right around the corner, and he never saw it coming, until the day a deal walked through the door that would change everything forever. At first, it was small cracks, family drama, lawsuits, and whispers of financial troubles. Then things took a turn for the worse. His own mother dragged him to court, claiming he tricked her out of her share of the business while she was still recovering from a coma. She wanted $500,000 and even tried to stop him from selling off any shop assets. It was a brutal family battle, and the public ate up every second of the drama. Then came the real gut punch. His son, Corey, found himself tangled up in one mess after another. The sharp-tongued, cocky negotiator fans had grown to love was now making headlines for all the wrong reasons. He trashed a rental RV, got into fights, and left a trail of unpaid debts. That was just the start. Then there was Chumlee, the goofy sidekick who stole the show with his clumsy antics. Off-screen, though, he was a walking disaster. His house was raided, and the cops found enough drugs and weapons to make anyone nervous. The worst part? He was facing serious charges that could have sent him away for years. He dodged hard time with a plea deal, but his reputation was toast. Pawn Stars wasn't just a business, it was an empire. Fans tuned in to see rare collectibles, bizarre finds, and Rick's legendary negotiating skills. But behind the scenes, things were far from perfect. The lawsuits kept piling up. The family drama exploded. And even the so-called experts who helped authenticate items weren't immune to scandal. One of the show's toy specialists got caught up in a domestic violence case, while sports memorabilia expert was exposed for passing off fake collectibles. The shop itself was struggling too. At its peak, the business raked in millions. Then the pandemic hit, and suddenly they were barely scraping by with $37,000 a year. Rick tried to keep things afloat by launching Pawn Plaza, a retail complex meant to bring in more customers. Instead, it flopped, with shop owners blaming him for not promoting it enough. More lawsuits followed, and Rick's grip on the empire started slipping. Pawn Stars wasn't the same anymore. The magic was gone. What used to be fun, spontaneous deal-making now felt scripted. The negotiations seemed forced. The excitement faded, and the personal drama overshadowed everything else. Rick saw the writing on the wall. The show wouldn't last forever, and he needed to secure his fortune before it all collapsed. Real estate, new business ventures, he tried everything to stay ahead. Despite all the chaos, the pawn shop doors stayed open. Sellers still walked in hoping for a big payday, only to be hit with Rick's signature low-ball offers. A guy came in holding a British bank note defaced by the infamous street artist Banksy, convinced he had a gold mine. Rick barely glanced at it before calling it vandalized cash. An expert confirmed it was real, but not as rare as the seller thought. He walked out with $400. Not exactly the jackpot he'd imagined. A cool piece of history, sure, but not exactly a hot ticket item. He wanted $400. Rick countered with $200. After some back and forth, they settled at $265. The shop used to be full of big wins. Now it was just another piece of a crumbling empire. A seller with a panoramic photo of a Vegas airfield from World War II thought he had something special. Rick didn't even blink. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's valuable. He offered $100. The seller walked out crushed. A Civil War-era revolver showed up next. Rare? Yes. Practical? Not so much. The seller wanted $18,000. Rick brought in an expert who confirmed its authenticity, but pointed out why it wasn't exactly a popular gun back in the day. Rick offered $800. The seller fought back, hoping for at least $1,250. In the end, he walked away with $1,400, still feeling like he lost the battle. A signed baseball from a legendary 1951 Yankees team should have been worth a fortune. Names like Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio were scrawled across it. The problem? Fading signatures, no authentication, and a worn-out ball. The seller dreamed of $3,000. Rick, knowing better, offered $800. Pawn Stars was built on the thrill of the deal. But now, it was just another piece of a crumbling empire. The old magic was gone. The drama took center stage, and Rick was left fighting to hold on to what was left. Once, the shop was a symbol of success. Now, it was a reminder of everything that had gone wrong. The deals kept coming. The cameras kept rolling. But the empire was slipping through Rick's fingers. What's next for Rick Harrison? If history has taught anything, it's that nothing stays the same. Empires rise and empires fall. And right now, the fall is looking inevitable. The show still drags on, but it's a shadow of what it used to be. Customers come in with dreams of striking it rich, only to leave disappointed when their treasures aren't worth half of what they thought. A guy waltzes in with a vintage Rolex, convinced he's sitting on a small fortune. Rick gives it a quick glance, points out the scratches, and starts chipping away at the price. The seller tries to hold his ground, but Rick's been playing this game too long. He makes his offer, low as ever, and the seller has to choose between walking out empty-handed or taking a deal that stings. Another day, another odd item. A woman brings in a 19th century pocket watch passed down through generations. She's sure it's worth a bundle. Rick, arms crossed, inspects it under the magnifier. It's genuine but common. She expected thousands. Rick throws out $500. Negotiations drag on, but the outcome is always the same. The house always wins. The weight of the past lingers in the shop. Every deal, every failed negotiation, every lawsuit adds another crack to the foundation Rick built. This empire was built from nothing, but now it feels like it's slipping through his fingers, $1 at a time. His father's legacy, the fame, the fortune, it's all on shaky ground. The cameras still roll. The tourists still line up outside. But the golden days are long gone. And the worst part, the next disaster could be right around the corner. Man, things just keep hitting harder than a bad bet at the blackjack table. First Adam, then Chumlee. And now here I am, staring at the walls of the pawn shop, wondering what else the universe can throw my way. The shop used to be a place of deals, of characters. Now, it's just another story of an empire crumbling before our eyes. Walking through the door with their wild collections, I did what I do best, turning someone else's forgotten treasure into my next big score. But now, it all feels like an echo of what used to be. Some days are routine, but then something unexpected walks through the door. Bargaining with ghosts, statues, and memories. Remember when the shop was buzzing? Like the time the guy walked in cradling a homemade Ghostbusters proton pack like it was a newborn baby. He had the whole thing wired up, lights, buttons, sound effects, the works. Thought he had a gold mine and asked for $2,000 like it was an original screen-used prop. The old man barely even looked at it before scoffing. Collectors exist, sure, but they prefer building their own toys rather than buying someone else's DIY job. The old man threw out an $1,100 offer firm. The seller hesitated, probably thinking about the blood, sweat, and late-night soldering that went into it. But in the end, money talks. He walked out, pockets heavier, heart a little lighter. Then there was that massive wooden Indian statue. Tall, imposing, the kind that used to stand outside an old-school tobacco shop, beckoning customers inside. This one came with a backstory. The guy who brought it in had sentimental ties. His granddad's store. Childhood memories. All that. But nostalgia doesn't pay rent, and he was ready to cash in. He threw out $900 as his ask. The old man just grinned, shook his head, and countered with $400. The seller tried to push for $600, but let's be real, how many people out there are hunting for a giant wooden statue? He caved. $1,400, another day, another deal. Art was always a wild ride in this business. One day, someone waltzes in with what they swear is a Picasso vase, the kind that looks like an owl. Says it's from the 40s or 50s, part of some limited run. Sounds fancy, right? But Picasso made these things in batches, hundreds at a time. The seller had been sitting on it for over 3 decades, convinced it was a hidden jackpot. He threw out $35,000 as his magic number. Bold move. No way we take that at face value. Time to call in an expert. The guy knew his stuff, verified the stamps, checked the markings, confirmed it was real, and crucially, in mint condition. Thing is, online listings mean nothing. Sure, some dreamers post these for $60,000. But reality? More like $25,000 tops. Rick went in low, $1, $500, expecting the usual back and forth. The seller wasn't having it. They haggled, each side testing the other. In the end, $17,000 sealed the deal. Not bad for an old vase collecting dust for decades. Then, just as we were catching our breath, another Picasso piece showed up, a framed print from the 50s called Goat Skull, on table. The owner had it appraised ages ago and thought $16,000 was fair. We had to check with our own expert, of course. Turns out, it was an aquatint etching. Fancy, but not exactly hand-painted. Valuable? Sure. Worth $16,000. Not even close. The final offer, a cool grand. The seller hesitated, but took the deal. Another Picasso, another payday. And just when it seemed like things were settling down, another curveball came flying in. 6 Picasso etchings from an old book. Seller wanted $5 grand, banking on the magic of Picasso's name alone. But here's the catch. Not everything with his name sells for millions. Some stuff barely scrapes together a few hundred. We brought in an expert who confirmed they were real and from a signed book, which bumped the value. Still, Rick wasn't dropping $5 grand without a fight. They went back and forth. Settled at $6,000. The seller walked away happy, and we had another set of Picasso prints on the shelf. The Picasso parade didn't stop there. Another seller came in with a print from the 60s. Problem? No paperwork. In the art world, missing documents are a giant red flag. Rick had his go-to art guy check it out. It was real, but without Picasso's signature, it wasn't exactly a gold mine. Market value? $2 to $3 grand at best. The kicker? The seller's family had bought it on a cruise ship for $9,000. Talk about buyer's remorse. Rick threw out a $1,500 offer. After some back and forth, the seller took it. Another deal locked in. Then came the days when the shop felt more like an art gallery than a pawn shop. Big names, high hopes, and that fine line between fortune and disappointment. Not every piece was a winner. Some came in looking like the next big find, only to crumble under the weight of reality. That's just how it worked. One deal was a jackpot. The next was a bust. And through it all, the old man watched over everything with that signature scowl, making sure no one got too carried away. Was Rick's offer a smart business move or a low-ball hustle? Should buyers take more responsibility, or is it on sellers to be honest? Comment below, like and subscribe.